Hey there and welcome back to XCOM 2. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Legend Ironman walkthrough of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. After spending an extended weekend in London and almost struggling to make it back on schedule, our series continues. Last time we left off after our very first encounter with the Chosen Warlock, although his role in the fight was a rather uninspired affair, as we only got to repeatedly take on his psi zombies but not the Warlock himself. Speaking of psionics, however, we have also already begun training our very own psi operatives. Rookies Esteban Flores and potato farmer Matt Lewin are currently undergoing the training, and they should be ready to go in about 2 weeks. Until then, let's start scanning, and we immediately start with a message from the Warlock.
Finally, we arrive upon the asylum of those depraved enough to defy the Elders. Your friends would be wise to beg forgiveness with their final breaths.
As you can see, alongside another retribution action, the Warlock's knowledge about us has increased substantially, possibly the result of our last encounter not ending in his defeat. Either way, as with the Assassin and Hunter as well, it might be a good idea to keep an eye on him.
The Chosen are gonna do whatever it takes to get to you, Commander, even if that means wiping out entire camps of Resistance supporters. We're their only line of defense.
Today's rumor then, 1 week of scanning for alien alloys. I think we can safely skip that. Instead, let's grab alloys and Elerium crystals in 8 days, another rumor that has been present for some time now, and since we are close to finishing the plasma rifle research, the additional Elerium crystals might come in handy soon.
Avenger plotting new course.
Right, and it also looks like the Avatar project is once again progressing. Seems to me like our previous efforts to reduce it were very short-lived.
Commander, the aliens continue to make progress on the Avatar project. If we're going to slow them down, we'll need to move fast.
And indeed, that's another increase just a few hours later. Perhaps we should attack one of those facilities soon after all.
Commander, the aliens are still moving forward on the Avatar project. Taking out that facility would deal a serious blow to their efforts.
For the time being, though, we keep scanning, and the Proving Ground thanks us with tracer rounds, one of the randomly selected outcomes of the experimental ammo project. This, by the way, also just unlocked the Tinker achievement. Tracer rounds give a flat +10 aim bonus to anyone who has them equipped, but unlike with blue screen rounds, after completing this project we just have enough for one soldier, so we better pick our target carefully. Overall, I actually think that tracer rounds are among the weaker ammo types in the game, but still, for now we are not just immediately ordering the next rounds. Instead, let's spend an Elerium core on an experimental heavy weapon, as we actually need to unlock every single one of these and kill an enemy with them too to unlock another achievement.
We'll get started right away, Commander. I'll send word when the project is complete.
And with the project underway, let's continue scanning, and without spoiling anything, we are due for a nasty surprise.
It's nothing on this end. All systems check out. It's almost as if our own signal is bouncing back at us.
Perimeter alarm!
Looking for a breach. Almost got it. There!
It's one of those things.
That can't be good.
You have repeatedly underestimated me. I told you I was coming, yet I see you have made no effort to prepare. How disappointing. Shall we begin?
Get me a fix on its location, now!
Got it. But you're not gonna like this. Whatever that cannon is, they've already got it keyed to critical systems throughout the ship. We can't take many more direct hits.
We're not going to. Commander, we need to take that thing out while we still can. Our forces can deploy immediately. Just give the word. The Chosen finally got the information they needed to find us, Commander. We should get ready. If history is any indication, this won't be easy.
Since you continue to flee and hide like vermin, I will come to you, and we will fight at the threshold of your sanctuary.
Alright, it is finally happening. The assassin is attacking the Avenger. This is the direct result of us letting her max out the knowledge bar. To be honest, something I let happen on purpose, as I really wanted to show it off. Now, this mission is arguably a little bit easier than the first Avenger assault we faced, if only for the reason that this time around we can actually select everyone who participates.
The Chosen aren't pulling any punches. They're here to take us down for good. We can send out 2 full squads to defend the Avenger and protect you, Commander. Commander, we can deploy some of our wounded troops back into combat if you feel it's necessary. This operation is critical to our efforts. We may not have much of a choice if we want to proceed.
And yes, as Bradford said, this time we can select 2 full squads, once again including wounded soldiers, although full squad in this case unfortunately only means 5 people, so a grand total of 10, not the 12 you would normally assume. And for this particular mission, there are a few very specific soldiers you definitely want to bring along. First things first, in my opinion, you absolutely need to bring a Reaper. That is why Dragonova is with us here today. And that's not even because she deals extra damage against the assassin. If things go according to plan, the 2 of them won't even come to blows. Instead, just like in the first Avenger Assault mission, we desperately need someone who can scout ahead, and that also brings me to the second person you absolutely need to bring, a sharpshooter with squad sight. You might even make the case for 2 of them, but Tsunami here will be the only one, and rounding off the squad are Tsunami's and Dragonova's bondmates Van Dyke and Starfall, as well as Julian the Spark, who we really need to level up quickly. Squad number 2 then features 2 more pairs of bondmates, Inshwaminian and Twitchy, as well as Nicholas and Mox, and with Nicholas being the more shooting-focused grenadier of the 2, he also has the tracer rounds equipped. Templar Logan then rounding out the squad. He is once again one of those candidates who's very close to a promotion, but you could potentially also slot in 1 or 2 slightly weaker units on this mission, as the 10 folks you send out will most likely come back tired, even if they do start the mission at full will. Still, this is very much a demanding mission, so it's also not a bad idea to bring your best. Let's see how this goes then as we embark on an all-or-nothing mission once more, as we attempt to defend the Avenger against the Chosen Assassin.
Attention all hands. This is not a drill. The Chosen are attempting a ground assault on us with heavy weaponry. Prepare to defend the ship. We have to take out that gun. The enemy turrets are hammering the ship. We have to take them out before they breach our hull.
Commander, that Chosen brought some sort of massive artillery cannon with it. There's no way we can take off while that thing is operational. They're powering the cannon with a supplementary generator on board that truck. It will probably take them some time to build the charge. So if we can take that thing out, the cannon itself will be useless.
Alright, and I think that serves as a nice explanation of our objectives in this mission. The main threat is absolutely the big gun, so destroying the big generator right in front of it will be key. You can also see in the top right corner that we are on a bit of a timer, although exactly how long the Avenger integrity of 400 here will last is still a mystery, but don't worry, we will solve that quickly. At this point, I think it suffices to say that the small turrets are definitely not the issue, so we want to focus all of our attention on the main gun, and of course on defeating the assassin, who will, and I think that is no surprise, also be present in this mission.
My life is in your hands. You can never escape my sight. There's an alien patrol nearby.
And so let's get to it. Reaper Dragonova scouts ahead and immediately detects our first group of enemies: Heavy Mech, Shield Bearer, Stun Lancer and Advent Officer. And you may have noticed it already, we are slowly but steadily leaving the advanced version of the enemies behind us and have moved on to elite level. So that means even better stats all around, most notably including armor and hit points.
There is nowhere to hide.
This thing looks ready to smash something.
Is that an environment suit? Maybe something that can't handle our atmosphere?
Those emissions could be toxic. I advise caution, Commander.
With her next move, Dragonova then reveals the pod guarding 2 of the 4 turrets, this one including a new type of enemy, the Andromedon. In some ways, this can be compared to a Muton on steroids. It is very clearly not a Muton, but it behaves very similarly. Tough to take down, deadly in melee, and with a ranged area of effect attack. We'll talk a bit more about it once we actually fight it.
Physical exertion out point.
For now, the rest of our squad moves into overwatching positions, and that is also how we end our turn. In the beginning here, it might not look like time is on our side and that we might have to employ a more aggressive approach, but if we play our cards right, we can very much afford to let the first few groups of enemies come to us.
So many have already fallen.
Right, so as expected the assassin has arrived, now also including the mech lord strength. Good thing that we have plenty of soldiers equipped with blue screen rounds.
And yet my work is never done.
We just picked up the Chosen Assassin's energy signature. She's moving on the squad's position, Commander.
The Elders possess many gifts. Where they see you, they send me.
Right, with the assassin arrived, the first thing you might notice is that the Avenger integrity has just been reduced by 4 meager points, 1 point for each of the small turrets on the map. The large cannon, meanwhile, is yet to fire and will obviously strip away a few more points, and we actually want to get our Reaper moving towards it as quickly as we can.
Moving as ordered. I will always find you. An alien scouting party.
Along the way, Dragonova detects a few more groups of enemies. Yes, the map is absolutely swarming with them. I think in total you can expect to fight about 25 to 35 enemies on this mission. But then again, we also have 9 people waiting for them on Overwatch, so as long as they don't approach us all at once, we should be fine.
Come get some.
Come get some.
Overwatch.
I know where you are.
On the enemy turn then, we just see a bit of movement from the Archon pod here, but no enemy comes into range. The assassin, meanwhile, most likely stealthing across the battlefield to meet us, but unless we happen to get close to her by accident,
I will end this quickly.
we most likely will not reveal her until she strikes.
Volk says I am to obey.
And, well, speak of the devil, there she is. Unfortunately though, even revealing her here does not really give us anything to act on. The rest of our squad is just too far away to attack her, and keep in mind that all missed shots against the assassin generate shield plating, so we really need to pick the right moment to strike, even if that potentially means letting her strike first. And so Dragonova just keeps moving and we end one more turn on Overwatch. Hopefully one of the enemy groups finally steps into our sight range.
Moving to Overwatch. Sounds like
The Advent power cells are at maximum charge, Commander. Their cannon is primed and ready to fire.
Alright, here we are. We have made contact, and just in time. If Shen is to be believed, then on the next enemy turn the main cannon will fire for the first time, so it's a good thing that we finally kick off the action.
Weak hit.
Thanks to blue screen rounds, the mech then also goes down immediately, while the 3 Advent soldiers unfortunately remain standing.
Du warst kein Gegner.
One dies, another is already born.
Enemy is still up!
Luckily for us then, this remains the only enemy group stepping into range. Those close to Dragonova roam around a bit more, and we also reveal yet another pod, but as long as they stick close to the main battery, they will not be an issue.
I know where you are. There's an alien patrol nearby.
The assassin then vanishes again and most likely keeps moving, although on this turn she does not get to strike just yet, but at this point I would expect her to do so on the next one. Still, for the time being, our main concern are the 3 enemies we are currently engaged with, as well as the 3 waiting right behind them, so we better make sure not to advance too far. Our first move then is to use one of Twitchy's 4 explosives. The blast radius here unfortunately not large enough to target all 4 enemies, but generally speaking stun lancers are a bit more dangerous than shield bearers, so that's why we're opting to blow up the car here first.
Take this!
This also neatly turns the Lancer's full cover into half cover, while it completely exposes the officer, now down to 11 hit points. It also means that Shwominian's bondmate has now officially attacked the officer, and this gives him the 10% aim bonus from Spotter, resulting in a very good 89% hit chance, as well as a good chance to crit.
Big deal.
They die as warriors. As great a death as one could hope for.
And it looks like we're off to a good start here as Shwominian gets the crit and kills the officer. And while we have her here, let's move up with Dragonova a bit more.
Volk says I am to obey.
As this now officially establishes line of sight with the power generator. You can see it is mounted on a truck with 48 hit points, so it can be targeted by remote start, but that won't destroy it. Still, our Reaper will play a large role in taking it out, more on that in just a moment. For now, we'll use Templar Logan in a rather unfamiliar role as a grenadier, just so we can shred some of the Stun Lancer's armor without having to get too close. Following that, we then activate Run and Gun with Ranger Starfall, and this gets him close enough to remain undetected by the other enemies, and if he hits this, the chance to crit is very high, and another crit is what we need to take the Shield Bearer out.
It's dead. It has to be dead.
Lovely, this now triggers the implacable extra movement as well as the untouchable immunity, and who knows, that might just come in handy. Against the Lancer then, we'll take aim with Nicholas, who as you can see receives a good number of aim bonuses. Still, the chance to hit is only 68%, but we'll take the shot anyway. Unfortunately then the Lancer dodges, but that's okay.
Physical exertion outpoint.
Holo targeting was still applied and it won't matter anyway. Spark Julian carries a superior stock after all, and will do at least 3 points of damage even if he misses.
Doesn't seem all that difficult to me.
Of course, Julian does not miss, and so the Lancer goes down. And so at this point we can explore why a squad-side sniper is so useful on this mission. Because as you can see, Tsunami here can now fire all across the map to hit the generator. Thanks to our Reaper, she has a clear line of sight and the shot is always guaranteed to hit. And even if she only deals minimum damage every single time, 8 turns of this will be enough to destroy the generator, and unless you take your sweet time moving over there, that is generally a lot faster than the main cannon can destroy the Avenger. At this point then, we are only shuffling around a bit and end the turn on Overwatch.
There can be no honor among traitors.
Which also means that we now get to see that main cannon in action for the very first time.
We've got system failures across the board, Commander. We can't take hits like that.
Or at the very least, we can't take many more of them, as a single hit just removed 80 of the Avenger's 400 points. In other words, we can watch this cannon fire exactly 4 times before the 5th will spell disaster. And speaking of disaster, here's the Assassin, as expected, now going in for the first strike, but picking the worst of all possible targets, Starfall, who is once again untouchable.
I must persist. The time has come to end this struggle once and for all. Your Avenger will fall today.
It's one of the Elders chosen.
Following the strike attempt, the Assassin then uses her Mech Lord ability to summon 2 heavy mechs, which interestingly enough does not actually trigger Starfall's Bladestorm ability, even though at least one of the mechs here is in melee range. With the mechs going on Overwatch, the Assassin then retreats and it's back to us, and I think this could get rather interesting, as this is probably our best chance to take out the Assassin early, but the mechs should obviously not be ignored entirely. Now, after a bit of thinking, I came up with a plan, and it once again involves Twitchy beginning things with an explosive, this time her rocket launcher, to remove both of the mechs' armors as well as their Overwatches.
Ready for the fireworks!
Following that, we make use of the fact that Sharpshooter Ada Lynn has blue screen rounds equipped, so let's use Lightning Hands to target the mech in the back first. That hits for 9 points of damage, and we can now fire twice more with her pistol. Both of these will go against the mech in the front. And after doing 10 more points of damage, the kill here is guaranteed if we hit this, so let's see if Tsunami can make it 3 in a row.
Well, how about that?
Lovely, that's 1 mech down. Time to slowly start shifting our attention over to the Assassin, who we can now flank after dashing in close with Grenadier Nicholas.
On it!
This ends his turn, but then again not entirely, as we switch over to his bondmate Praetor Mox, who can first deliver the killing blow against the second mech,
Strategic asset near. They live no more.
and can then give Nicholas an extra action thanks to teamwork. And with all of his aim bonuses, Nicholas is guaranteed to hit the Assassin, and a hit will shred her armor, not to mention apply holo targeting for everyone who comes after. Up next then, we'll move in our Templar Logan. Once again, for a rather unconventional move, we'll just use lightning hands to have him fire twice with his pistol, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but both shots are guaranteed to hit due to holo targeting. And as soon as we get to attack number 3, the Bewildered bonus kicks in. From here on out, the assassin will take increased damage from all ranged attacks. Keep in mind she's immune to melee. With our next 2 moves then, we move in Ranger Starfall and Spark Julian.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
And we are playing it a bit risky here with Starfall's rapid fire. As you can see, the shots are not guaranteed to hit, and missing them might make things worse, but there is simply nobody else on the battlefield who can do this much damage, so let's just hope that he hits and ideally crits at least one of them.
Now the battle can begin.
I definitely got that one.
Alright, not what I had expected to be honest. 2 critical hits for a grand total of 39 points of damage, and that's the assassin dealt with, Spark not even necessary.
You are the only ones who have ever forced my withdrawal, and now you leave me no choice but to flee once again.
I'm sure we'll see them again, but that Chosen sure wasn't expecting the fight we put up today, Commander.
So, I have to be completely honest, I think at this point the hardest part of the mission is already behind us. From here on out we can basically just have 8 people on permanent overwatch, while Tsunami slowly but steadily snipes away at the power generator, potentially with Dragonova helping out a bit too.
I'm on the move. You will never hide from me.
Speaking of Dragonova, she has just discovered another brand new type of enemy, or rather one that should already be familiar from our first series. The Chrysalid has returned, this time accompanied by a Muton Berserker. Still, for now they are far away, so let's end a successful turn on Overwatch and see what our enemies come up with next.
I am on watch.
I am Avenger Defense.
That Chrysalid pod is then in fact also moving away from our Reaper, while the group guarding the generator is moving awfully close to it, an excellent opportunity for us to speed up its destruction. Up first, we'll have our Reaper place a claymore and we'll make sure that it is close enough to the front of the truck,
Placing the weapon.
so that we can then blow it up with remote start for an extra dose of heavy explosive damage.
This will get their attention.
So that's 20 points of damage to the generator. All 4 enemies meanwhile are still standing, albeit barely. The pod is also technically active now, so I think it might be a smart idea to get Dragonova a bit further away from them. Good thing that she is bonded to Ranger Starfall, who after reloading can quickly give her another action with teamwork,
I'm with you.
which we can then use to retreat and avoid accidentally revealing our Reaper. For good measure then, Tsunami can take another shot at the generator too. And just like that, it's down to only 14 hit points, so perhaps 2 more shots will already take it out. And as you may have noticed, the generator takes a few turns to warm up, so the main gun fires, I believe it's every 4 turns. In other words, with a bit of luck, we might just be able to leave it at the 1 hit we had to suffer. Mox meanwhile on loot recovering duty, and Waterhaul has made 3 superior grade items, among them a superior scope, probably one of the most useful weapon attachments in the entire game.
I will guard it closely. Yes, Commander.
Templar Logan, meanwhile, is actually in range of one of the turret trucks. His pistol will obviously not do a lot of damage, but then again the trucks also only have 18 hit points and they are not a priority anyway. With that, we can then end the turn on Overwatch and see if we make contact with any more enemies.
So,
Keep it fire, moving to Overwatch.
by.
Now, for the moment it doesn't look like it, although the pod by the generator is going crazy, and I think Dragonova will shortly have some fun with these guys. Before she gets tagged though, let's have Tsunami fire another shot, this one potentially the second to last one we need. Dragonova meanwhile has a guaranteed stealth kill against the Purifier, who, if we are lucky, might even blow up and deal some extra damage to the units around them.
fate possible for aliens. I need more ammo!
Alright, and just like that, there were only 2, Priest and Shield Bearer, and if they stay where they are, they won't be standing for much longer. With our main force, meanwhile, we can start working on taking out the first truck, although we need to be careful not to move too close to it. As you know, there is a part of aliens protecting it that might just see us.
That's one turret down, but we still need to deal with the rest. Watch your flanks out there.
Alright, so from this point onwards, the Avenger will only suffer 3 points of damage per turn from the turrets. In other words, we could now drag out this mission for about 98 more turns. That is, if we take out the main gun before it fires once more. The second truck might be a slightly tougher nut to crack though, but we'll worry about that in due time. For now, let's stay vigilant and end another turn on Overwatch.
Got it covered.
Overwatch! The Advent power cells are at maximum charge, Commander. Their cannon is primed and ready to fire.
Okay, so it looks like we only have 1 more turn before the main cannon fires again. And it also looks like we once again have enemies inbound, as an enemy group of 3 has just entered our squad's reaction shot range. This time we are dealing with Purifier, Trooper and Mech, but let's see what's left of them after the Overwatches here conclude.
Adjusting sights! Deflection!
Habt ihr das gesehen?
Come on, focus!
Okay, so the Purifier is down, that leaves only 2 enemies. Meanwhile, the Shield Bearer over by the generator very annoyingly moves away and also deploys his shield, so it looks like we'll have at least 1 survivor this turn. The main difficulty in taking out Mech and Trooper, meanwhile, will probably be not to engage the enemies in the back while we're doing it. Luckily though, Grenadier Nicholas is benefiting from so many aim bonuses that he has a guaranteed hit from right where he's standing. That shreds the armor, removes the Overwatch and allows Schwaminian to move closer.
Alright, I'll go.
Holder targeting brings his aim chance up to a respectable 92%, and blue screen rounds might just give him enough damage to go for the kill. So, unfortunately no kill just yet, but the rest should be easy.
Legen wir endlich los.
Let us focus on the Trooper for now, against whom Van Dyke can move into a flanking position. Disappointingly though, the shot misses, so we'll turn to Mox next. First of all, he can deliver an easy killing blow.
I am the victor.
And then he can use his Justice Grapple for a moderate success chance of pulling the Trooper out of cover.
For the fallen.
And that succeeds, meaning 6 points of damage are coming right up. And let's try to give Templar Logan the kill with Rend.
Target eliminated.
And that succeeds as well. We finally get our first point of focus with him, as well as the promotion to Captain. In my opinion, the rank where the Templar really starts to get going. Fresh off of a free reload, meanwhile, Tsunami can once again take aim at the generator. If she hits for max damage, this here will be the last shot we need.
Good work out there. The generator is down and the cannon is disabled. Now we just need to mop up the remaining enemy forces.
Alright, and with that, I have to say the mission is pretty much completed already. At this point, we can in fact stay out here for 97 more turns, enough time to take things slowly and carefully for the rest of the way. Unfortunately then, due to his sustainability, the priest somehow even survived the explosion, but that just means that Dragonova takes care of him on the next turn, while the rest of our squad once again goes on Overwatch.
Okay, I'll go.
My turn on watch.
Moving to Overwatch.
I'm on it.
For you.
On the enemy turn then, nothing too interesting, that is until we get to the Berserk Chrysalid part, who finished their turn standing right next to the car here, and well, Dragonova's remote start is fresh off of its cooldown.
Stand clear.
These chrysalids seem a little smaller than I remember. Then again, it was never really their size we had to worry about.
And yes indeed, the chrysalids still a dangerous melee enemy. They don't do a terrible amount of damage, but their claws are now poisoned, so they can definitely be annoying, also because of another ability they now have. Maybe we'll get to see that as the part here keeps roaming. In the meantime, Tsunami starts shooting the second turret truck. Unfortunately though, she is the only one in our team with squad sight, so the rest of our squad does not really have much of a choice but to reload and stay put.
Alles im grünen Bereich.
Scanning.
I'll monitor that area.
Bestätigt.
Affirmative. I'm on it.
Covering out.
As expected then, Berserker and Chrysalids are just aimlessly running around, and the same is true for the Advent Shieldbearer too, against whom we are just biding our time. The energy shield will only last for a few turns, after which we can then go for the attack. For this turn then, the plan is simple. We'll just keep chipping away at the turret here. Our main force meanwhile once again goes on Overwatch.
Overwatch engaged.
Moving
to
Overwatch.
Dragonova meanwhile can use her Sting ability to take out the priest, and yes, we are using Sting here just to be absolutely sure that she stays in stealth.
From the darkness, a light. No compromises.
On the enemy turn then, more aimless wandering by Berserker and Chrysalids. The shield bearer also once again comes a bit closer and now finally also loses their shield, and with only 4 hit points left, they are an easy target for our Reaper. So that would now be the entire part eliminated. Sadly though, in moving in for the kill, Dragonova also just broke line of sight with the turret, which means Tsunami no longer has squad sight and we have no other choice but to spend the turn on Overwatch.
Scanning.
On Overwatch.
Guard duty
Mir
is.
entgeht
Come
nichts.
get
No
some.
trust.
Got it covered.
And it's a good thing that we do, because at this point another enemy group moves in. An Archon, a Purifier and a Mech are on the move. Let's see what our team can do against them.
Nur angekratzt.
I got nothing. Barely a hit.
Okay, so the Archon takes the bulk of the fire and also dodges numerous times, which in turn leaves the part mostly intact as our Overwatches come to an end. Tsunami meanwhile uses her squad sight ability to target the Berserker far away. Unfortunately though, she misses.
Shot wide.
The Chrysalids meanwhile just continue to skitter about, and with that it's back to us and we finally have something to do. And we start things off with Mox, who grabs the high ground, from where he has 2 decent shots against the Purifier in half cover. Once again, we don't want to move too close to the enemies here, just because there should be another group lurking in the shadows right behind them. Now, Mox doesn't get the kill, but the result is still perfectly acceptable. Up next then, we'll send in our gunner Nicholas to put holo targeting on the Archon, and perhaps to even deal some damage in the process too. Following that, I then made a stupid mistake by moving Van Dyke.
Los geht's.
Looks like the one tile he was standing on was still in reaction shot range of the mech, who thankfully misses the shot, otherwise Van Dyke could have suffered up to 9 points of damage. Well, at least the Overwatch is now broken, which means we can move up with Julian next, who then has a 70% chance to kill the Archon.
I was off by a few percentage points.
Unfortunately though, the Archon dodges yet again, and as you can see, I don't really dare to move in much closer, but perhaps we don't need to, if Schwaminian can land the hit here. And that he can, and that means we can now also guarantee the kill on the Purifier. Starfall's superior stock will deal at least the 3 points of damage necessary. Or he delivers 11, that's good too. Either way, at this point only the mech remains standing and we have broken line of sight with it, so I think we can let it come to us. Dragonova meanwhile keeps harassing the chrysalids, taking one of them out here, which actually also earns her the promotion to Major, well deserved, and I think it was about time. With Tsunami having no viable squad side targets, she then moves up and we put the rest of the squad on Overwatch. Most likely this will not be enough to kill the mech, but we have our own Spark well positioned as bait, and Julian can definitely take a hit or two. Still, as you can see, the Overwatch does good work, leaving the mech standing with only 5 hit points, and even better, just as planned, it does in fact seem to take aim at our Spark.
They're firing on this unit.
And even better than that is the fact that it once again misses, so against all odds, we are still on course for a flawless mission rating. Berserker and Chrysalids meanwhile just continue to shuffle around, that is until we get to the second Chrysalid here, who decides to burrow down. This is a new ability that Chrysalids have gained in XCOM 2. The Chrysalid will now be hidden in that spot and can stay there for several turns, during which it goes on what can best be described as melee Overwatch, so if anything moves too close to the burrow it will emerge and attack. And the range of this ability is actually quite a bit larger than you might expect. I think it's about the standard single action movement range of a regular soldier, so in other words, it's best to keep our distance. Now, there are ways to force a Chrysalid out of its hole and even to do damage against them while they're underground. We'll see whether or not we'll get to that today, but if we don't, then rest assured, this won't be our last encounter. Meanwhile, thanks to the high ground advantage, Mox has taken care of the mech, and just like that, another enemy part has been defeated. With Dragonova then, we have a 99% against the remaining Chrysalid, and I know this is XCOM, but I think that's a chance that we can take.
Good riddance.
Lovely, that takes the Chrysalid out, and lacking any other enemies, we might as well shoot the Berserker with Tsunami here. It's basically a 50-50 shot, and we really don't have anything else to do with her. Unexpectedly then, she hits, and we can also see there are more Chrysalids lurking in the background by the turrets, but let's take this one step at a time. For now, we can safely move our line forwards a bit, and no, I have not forgotten about the almost destroyed turret on the left side, but again, doing only 1 point of damage to the Avenger per turn does not really make it a priority target. So instead, we'll slowly advance over to the other two over on the right, not to mention that the Berserker might just start moving now, so we want to be able to greet it appropriately.
Come on, focus!
And there we go, that's the Berserker dealt with too. Absolutely lovely stuff all around.
Efficiency is my specialty.
Now at this point I had to briefly interrupt the recording session because it was going on for a few hours already. When I restarted the game, a lot of the dead enemies were suddenly T-posing. Otherwise, of course, nothing has changed. This is still an Iron Man playthrough after all. Now at this point, I think it's also about time that we finish the job against that lone turret on the left, so let's keep Dragonova moving back in that direction, which then once again re-enables squad side for Tsunami, and conveniently enough, the 3 sectoids are still standing right next to the truck. Well, at least they are for now. So, one more truck disabled, and completely unfazed by the explosion, the sectoids have remained right where they are. I wouldn't be too surprised though if they start moving on the next turn, during which they might actually be able to get in range of our troops, so we probably shouldn't waste our entire turn shooting things.
Physical exertion out point.
Still, taking out one more truck surely can't hurt. As you can see, we can safely get a few more people into range, and thanks to the combined efforts of Julian, Van Dyke and Nicholas, we are now down to only 1 truck left. That also means that at this point we have exactly 274 turns left to end this mission, and I think that is a time window that we can very much work with. For the rest of this turn then, we'll make a few moves, get in a few reloads and end things on Overwatch. Let's see whether or not those sectoids make a move.
Scanning. On Overwatch. Scanning.
Alright, so for some reason they are comfortable just standing there injured. This definitely makes the task a bit easier for us, as we can now use this turn to finally move up our sharpshooter a bit. For the first time in this mission, Tsunami now actually has some high ground beneath her feet, while all of those who have not yet reloaded do so. And with that, I think we are now ready for the final part of this mission.
My turn on watch.
Overwatch.
Got it covered.
Affirmative.
I await
Cover
their
now.
overwatch.
And despite the fact that one of the sectoids here is on fire, they still decide not to make a move. Well, I guess there is no need to complain about that. Instead, let's make sure that the kill actually goes to us, as Dragonova now arrives on the scene to put the sectoid out of its misery.
Your friends will join you soon. I have little ammo remaining.
This, interestingly enough, gets the pod moving, and they actually come quite close to revealing our Reaper, and I think at this point it's best to ensure that that doesn't happen at all. So let's attack, and who better to begin things than Twitchy? After all, she still has 2 grenades left, and even though the truck here cannot explode again, despite what the game might indicate, the Andromedon sports a hefty amount of armor that we should get rid of quickly. Apart from heavy protection, the Andromedon also possesses a cannon capable of delivering up to 11 points of damage.
Ah, the open spaces, the fresh air.
Not to mention the most powerful melee attack of any enemy in the game, so I think it would be best to take it out right here and now. And well, with Nicholas hitting a sub 50%er here, we're on a good way. I mainly just wanted to get holo targeting, but this of course works too. Let's see if Julian can now follow it up. Alright, beautiful. Now to take care of the sectoid we have Tsunami. The high ground pretty much negates the half cover here. Let's see if she can make it count. Right, for the first time in this mission I think she cannot, so at this point what we'll do is we're using Van Dyke's 8 protocol on Nicholas. Just in case all of this goes wrong, this gives Nicholas threat assessment, and that means a free reaction shot despite the fact that he has already used his turn. Van Dyke himself then takes out the sectoid with combat protocol. And after moving up with Mox and Logan to even get them into striking range,
Moving to position.
we then take aim with Specialist Schwaminian, who only because of a plethora of aim bonuses even has a remote chance of hitting the Andromedon, but if he does, that would be the kill.
I know where
We
you
all
are.
saw that thing go down. Now what the hell is it doing?
Alright, Schwaminian receives the promotion to Captain, but it looks like our fight is not done just yet. Yes, after killing the Andromedon, its suit actually lives on, now unarmored and purely limited to melee strikes only, but still sporting a respectable 21 hit points. On the bright side, it is considered a purely mechanical enemy now, which means that unlike in its previous form, blue screen rounds actually apply, and conveniently enough, Ranger Starfall has those equipped, so if he hits both shots here, that will be enough for the kill. Alright, lovely. That would be the Andromedon dealt with as well. And I think we are slowly but steadily running out of enemies. Apart from that one burrowed chrysalid and the part over by the other turret, this should be all. So I think we are not too far away from finally completing the mission. On the enemy turn then, as expected, nobody makes it closer to us, so let's get closer to them by sending our spark forward. If Julian here happens to trigger the chrysalid's burrow overwatch, that wouldn't be the end of the world.
Father really outdid himself, didn't he?
Thankfully though he doesn't, instead he just activates 4 more of them. And well, huddled so closely together, they do make it easy for us. And with Twitchy slowly running out of explosives, this time we're starting things off with Nicholas.
Here, catch!
Don't worry though, Twitchy is coming up next and can chug a grenade right after him. This mission in particular here definitely showing that it's a good idea to unlock plasma grenades as early as possible. Now at this point we want to employ yet another heavy weapon, Julian's rocket launcher. As I mentioned, for an achievement we actually need to get kills with every single heavy weapon in the game, and unless we get extremely unlucky here, this should result in at least one.
I could have had this planet cleaned up a long time ago.
Alright, 2 kills it is, strike the rocket launcher off the list, and Julian also receives a promotion. Looks like we'll have plenty to take care of after the mission. For the moment though, we have 2 chrysalids left, so let's see if our Templar can take care of them. And I have to admit, I am actually really enjoying lightning hands on him. It definitely makes Logan a lot more versatile.
Target eliminated.
However, with the first chrysalid taken out, we want kill number 2 to be guaranteed, so let's use Volt to make sure of that.
X-ray neutralized.
And there we go. At this point, I think only the burrowed chrysalid is left. I expect it will be forced to emerge soon, otherwise we can't end the mission. In the meantime, let's go to work on the final turret. And let's also move up our squad a bit, although we still want to make sure to stay away from the burrow for now, just so we don't ruin the flawless mission rating on the final turn here.
I won't let them pass.
And there we are. As expected, the chrysalid comes out of its hidey hole. Unfortunately though, our squad has already been waiting for it.
Can't move! I got it, right?
And one stock-powered shot from Starfall is enough to take it out, and in the top left corner you can also see it confirmed now, this was indeed the last enemy on the map. So at this point we only have one last armored vehicle left to deal with, and let's get this over with quickly. The first shot goes to Julian, and just because he was up next, the last shot goes to Shuaminian.
You've destroyed all of the enemy siege emplacements. Excellent work, Commander.
And there we are, mission completed. It was a far cry from the first Avenger Defense, and all of that despite the fact that the assassin was part of this one too. The entire mission setup, in my opinion, just lending itself a bit better to a controlled, careful approach. Still, to get away with a flawless mission rating here, that was unexpected, and I think we owe it in large parts to these two right here. Dragonova and Tsunami, the absolute keys to success in this one. Forgive me for not displaying the entire squad on the photo here. Unfortunately, it is simply not possible to fit 10 people into one picture.
We managed to keep the Chosen off the Avenger for now, Commander, but I'm sure they'll be back. We need to keep working with the factions to track their position. The sooner we take them out, the better.
So, after the mission then, as expected, we see tired people all across the board, but we also have plenty of promotions to handle. So let's begin with Specialist Van Dyke, who has made it to the rank of Major. Now, in my opinion, both abilities here are very, very good. Ever Vigilant is a big boost to the Specialist's action economy, meaning that they can dash and still go on Overwatch afterwards. However, considering that we still have the rest of the squad to think of who cannot dash and Overwatch on the same turn, in my experience this does not actually come into play that often, which is why we are instead going with Guardian, which gives Van Dyke a 50% chance to fire a second Overwatch shot, provided that the first one hits. Compared to Ever Vigilant, this is definitely a bit more conditional, but if we make sure to give him a few aim bonuses, this should trigger somewhat reliably. Up next then we have Dragonova, who at this rank unlocks the extremely useful Killzone ability as a randomly assigned XCOM skill. Admittedly though, Reapers are not exactly the aces of Overwatching, not to mention that it comes with a hefty price tag. Her first regular class skill, meanwhile, is Banish, the ability to continuously keep firing at a target until it dies or we run out of ammo. Slap on a superior expanded magazine and this one can be deadly, especially if combined with abilities like Needle or Shredder, which Dragonova conveniently both has available to her. Still, it comes with the big caveat of revealing the Reaper, which basically goes against everything we are using them for, and so we are instead opting for the rather straightforward Highlands ability, which simply gives Dragonova a second Claymore. This will obviously not be the most exciting skill, but it will definitely be useful, and who knows, we might still grab Banish at a later point in time. Up next then we have Julian the Spark, and the choice here is between Intimidate and Wrecking Ball. Intimidate is actually a very good ability. Sparks are targeted often, and giving every enemy who does a chance to panic can be huge, not to mention that the chance to panic actually increases the better Julian is equipped. However, there are actually a good number of enemies in the game who are immune to panic, so once again it might not trigger as often as you might expect. In this case we are going with Wrecking Ball simply because it's the more fun ability. It also synergizes very well with Julian's strike attack, not to mention that the ability to demolish buildings and cover can actually be very useful, for example if you quickly need to get in or out one of those advent facilities. Finally then we have Templar Logan, and we begin things with Deep Focus, which is pretty much an auto-buy at this point. Expanding the Templar's maximum focus level to 3 is pretty much a no-brainer. Logan will definitely not always be as passive as he was today, and a high focus level gives him powerful bonuses to pretty much all of his currently selected abilities. At this point though, we are not done yet. Up next we have Invert. Now this one we are not going to buy, but it can be extremely useful. The ability to instantly switch locations with an enemy unit can be exploited in many creative ways, and I think we might just grab this at a later point in time. Instead, what we'll grab for now is Reflect, an ability that builds upon the Deflect ability that we grabbed last level. Now Deflect gives Logan the chance to completely negate the damage of an incoming attack, provided it's not already blocked by parry, while Reflect actually gives him a chance to turn the damage back at the attacker. And curiously, and this is what makes these two abilities so powerful, they actually trigger independently of each other, so even if Deflect does not trigger in the first place, Reflect might. Both abilities are also boosted by focus level, so at focus level 3 there is, I believe, only about a 20% chance for any attack to actually hit Logan, and that is before cover bonuses and aim penalties and all that stuff are applied. In other words, a Templar with Deflect, Reflect and focus level 3 can be an absolute tank. Now at this point we're actually not quite done with the promotions just yet, we still have Shominian to take care of, but since he is not part of the squad screen here, let's take a look at loot first, which as you can see is a lengthy list this time around, and I have to say, especially the superior scope here was a very lucky find. Now obviously, as a result of recovering our first Andromedon and Chrysalid corpses, we have also just unlocked the respective autopsies, and at least in case of the Chrysalids, we should quickly be able to collect enough corpses for that autopsy to be instantly completed. Now, to wrap things up for today, let us now also take care of Shominian's promotion. I have to admit, I was actually very tempted to give him Threat Assessment 2. In my opinion, it is just the better of the two abilities, and that is why Van Dyke has it. But again, I want this to be as complete of a playthrough as possible, so we are going with Covering Fire instead, which is definitely not bad either, and actually also synergizes very well with both of the major rank skills we just took a look at with Van Dyke. At this point then, there is one last thing to take care of, and that is our very first level 3 bond. As you can see, Twitchy and Shominian are ready to advance their bond level once more. Forming a level 3 bond, however, will take 12 days instead of 6, but Shominian is tired for 8 days anyway, so we wouldn't send him out into the field regardless. Bond level 3 then first of all upgrades Teamwork to now have 2 charges per mission, and it also unlocks the Dual Strike ability, meaning that one of the two bondmates can decide to attack a target and the other bondmate will fire too, a shot that is completely free of charge for the second person. This has only 1 use per mission, but it can be a big boost to the action economy in the right time. Needless to say, we will most likely see more of Twitchy and Shominian in the near future. For today then, I think we have reached a very good point to make the cut. Not as much progress this week in terms of base building, world map progression or research, but instead we experienced one of the more unique missions the game has to offer. A mission that, if you play things carefully, perhaps even the right way, you will actually never get to see, and I have to say we mastered it beautifully. So next time then we'll continue right where we left off today. Until then, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course also go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!